hour, we're following some breaking news from the live desk right now. It appears that Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger may now be on his way back to Idaho. So ABC News reporting in the last 30 minutes, Kohberger flew out of Pennsylvania this morning. He was being held at a county jail there. It is believed he'll be flown directly to Idaho, possibly somewhere in Washington, to face murder charges in Idaho in connection with the deaths of those 4 University of Idaho students, including Ethan Chapin from Skagit County. Once Kohberger is back in Idaho, the probable cause statement will become unsealed. That's a big development. It will likely reveal how investigators say they connected him to the November murders. Kohberger waived his right to fight extradition just yesterday. The 28-year-old arrested last week in Pennsylvania at his parents' house. The judge ordered Kohberger to be sent to Idaho within the next 10 days. But again, it appears that is now happening.
How would you grade your first year?
Well, you know, I don't grade myself. I don't take victory laps. That's what the public's job is to do. And we do feel as though we're warmly received in terms of the direction the city's going. And so that's my measurement, is how, and I go everywhere, Chris.
Do you believe that Seattle is safer 1 year later?
I do.
The eye test, though, is one thing. As you know, the data is another. And according to the city's own data, it shows that crime is up in many sectors, in particular homicides, motor vehicle theft, property crime. December numbers are not in, but it was trending in the wrong direction. Shootings are up 23%. That's the highest in a decade in the city of Seattle. So what do you account for that?
So I think you have old data.
It's the new data. That's straight from the SPD, showing a massive spike here in the last year.
I think if your question is, how do I feel about it? How I feel about it is that we need to do better. That's how I feel about it. And again, if you look at the budget that I proposed, many of the things that I was successful in getting through the city council, I think that we will head in the right direction. With our recruiting strategy, with our community-based strategies, even with our educational components, and even our park strategies, we have, I think, a holistic approach toward public safety.
How do you change the narrative that this police force, the firefighters are simply just not overwhelmed right now?
Well, it starts with me having a relationship with the firefighters and the police department.
Ever since you started offering the $30,000 signing bonuses, has there been a rush to apply? Do you think that's going to work?
Of course, we think our strategy is going to work. Otherwise, we wouldn't implement the strategies. And the strategies we've implemented are coming from what's worked effectively in other cities.
There's this nexus between homelessness, crime, and economic recovery, as you know. Still 42% of foot traffic compared to 2019 levels. In part because of the pandemic and the fact that people want to work from home. So with all of these things swirling, how do you get people back downtown?
Your questions about public safety are important because they have to feel safe. We also want to look at how we activate downtown, and by that we're talking about culture and arts and lighting and physical structures. And so what our effort is going to be is, first of all, make it safe, but make it vibrant. Part of our strategy in 2023 will be to activate, to look at the physical structures, to bring in people. You know, I talk about coffee corners and things like this where we could actually have people meet and greet one another.
Today, House lawmakers will try once again to vote for a House Speaker after 3 failed votes. It's been 100 years since that's happened, where lawmakers just could not reach a majority in the first vote. And Florida Congressman Byron Donalds joins us this morning with more insight on what's happening behind closed doors. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning. What happened last night after the House adjourned? Did Republicans get together and try to hash this out?
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversations between members about finding pathways to either get there for Kevin or find out how we're going to go ahead and elect a speaker. I think one thing was evident on the floor pretty early on is that he didn't have the votes. Now we go through the process of having more deliberations to figure out how we're going to elect a speaker and then move on to the business that we've been sent to Washington to handle.
Yeah, and you in fact said you changed your vote the third time because it was apparent McCarthy didn't have the votes. Does Jordan have the votes? Jim Jordan?
Right now, it's not clear that anybody has 218 votes. And so that's why we're going to continue this process. I think for people to understand back home is that for too long in Washington, leadership has just been done by acclamation. And so even though this is a process that nobody's seen in a century, we actually believe this is actually very healthy for the House of Representatives and for the Republic, because there is a real debate, real deliberation, a real look at how things are done here on Capitol Hill, and that is only going to be to the betterment of the American people.
Right, for sure. I mean, debate is obviously healthy. Typically, though, this is already done by the party, so that by the time this vote comes around, it's really largely symbolic. Why do you think that didn't already happen?
Because I think you do have members here who want to see some fundamental changes in the way Washington operates. Look, if your concerns are about border security, our debt, the fact that we're 32 trillion in debt, the way the Treasury operates, the way the FBI has been operating, what to do about the Federal Reserve System. A lot of that begins with basic rules and process here, and the ability for members to legislate on behalf of their constituents. And so I think the reason why you've seen this protracted debate is because there is wide conversation, and some of them haven't come to conclusions about how Congress is going to operate. But at the end of the day, it's about doing the job for the American people. It's about addressing the needs that we were all sent here to do. And so I think that's why you're seeing this extended deliberation.
McCarthy has made some concessions, but what do you think it would take for McCarthy to win over some of the more conservative representatives to his side?
Well, look, I don't really want to, honestly, I don't want to get into that with you right now, because these are meetings between members. I want to respect everybody's privacy and confidence as we go through these conversations. But I fully anticipate that we're going to go ahead and get a speaker elected before we leave town this week.
Who do you think could be an alternative candidate that everyone in the House can rally around?
It's really not clear right now. I just don't know. It's too fresh. I think for a lot of members, it's still a new reality that, wow, nobody has 218 votes. And so now you got to go through conversations. Members are thinking, members are talking. But again, I think that having a process like this, where frankly it's in some respects done on the House floor, some of it's behind closed doors, some of it's out in the open, is a healthy thing overall, because what it demonstrates is that Republicans actually take leadership seriously. It's not something that's just tossed around quickly for a quick deal and a handshake. It's something that we're going to have that dialogue, because at the end of the day, it's about representing the voters that sent us here. It's about getting America back on track. It's about having agenda items that are going to put the people first and put America first.
Certainly, Congressman. What if a lawmaker offers a resolution to lower the vote threshold needed to become Speaker and endorse a plurality winner? Could a Democrat become House Speaker?
Not likely, because you still have to ratify that with the majority of the entire body. And so I'll tell you right now, I won't support any maneuver like that. I think that anything that can cause the Democrats to have a speakership is something I will completely be against and make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay. In the meantime, no legislation, as you mentioned, can move forward until a speaker is elected. We know there's plenty of issues on the table, including inflation and the border crisis. What are you proposing to secure the southern border if Title 42 does in fact go away?
Well, this is one of the things that's a problem why I was so against the omnibus package that was agreed to in the Senate by Senate Republicans, because it really ties the hands in the House until September 30th. We should definitely move forward with bills to keep Title 42 in place, and frankly, even go further than that, but actually give our border agency ability to make assessments of credible fear at the border, something the Biden administration took from them, and also stop the asylum process at the southern border. It is an illegal point of entry. So we should be taking asylum applications there. If we did those two things and a couple others, that would stop the surge at the southern border. One of the ways you get that accomplished is doing it through the budget process. But when Senate Republicans took that away from us in order to pass the omnibus package, it really hurt us here. So I think that's what we got to do going forward. I think there are packages like that Republican members are talking about right now. But, first things first, we're going to get the Congress organized, and then we'll go from there. And
Congressman, what do you think the American people can expect this year when it comes to inflation and the economy?
Look, first thing is we got to get spending under control. We cannot live beyond our means anymore. The massive COVID money that's been out there, that has to come back. We got to put that money back into the treasury. We can't continue to disperse it. It's simply not needed. Once you start doing that, that goes a big way to helping to curtail inflation long term. And we're going to have to work through that. One of my bills is something that I co-authored with French Hill of Arkansas, is actually putting the Federal Reserve onto one mandate of sound money and getting rid of the full employment mandate. It's really not worked for the American people since it was put into place in 1977. So those are some of the measures that I think that we can really move and get accomplished. But this is why that omnibus package that passed in the lame duck was really a bad bill and set the American people back, because it doesn't put any of the spending restraints on Washington for another 9 months.
And very quickly, Congressman, there's been a lot of talk of banning TikTok on all devices, not just government-owned devices. What's your thoughts about that?
Listen, I think that TikTok is an application that only helps the Chinese government spy on Americans. We should not be allowing it here in the United States. Look, I'm all for technology. I'm all for free markets. But when we know there's an application that allows our adversaries on the world stage literally spy on the American people, I'm against it. We shouldn't allow it.
I know you've got a crucial day ahead, very busy, Congressman, so we appreciate your time with us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Preston Phillips from KOMO News. Thanks for checking out the KOMO YouTube channel. You can see more of our videos right here by clicking on the video links for more news from the Seattle area and Western Washington. Oh, and don't forget to click the subscribe button below so you don't miss our YouTube updates.